Let me bring us back to the reason that we are all collected in this room today. I'll present to you the case of Andrew. In 2016, he developed tingling in his arm. He's taken to the emergency room where he becomes quadriplegic within hours. Neurosurgeons could only remove 90% of the 9-centimeter large glioblastoma multiforme, the deadliest brain cancer known to man. So from this moment on, every one of his treating oncologists knew that his prognosis is hopeless. But what follows? Surgery, chemo, radiation, immune therapy, more surgery, more chemo, more radiation. He suffered unbearable toxicities. The tumors continued to grow, and he died within 16 months of diagnosis. This poor boy was 22 years old, and he was the best friend of my daughter, Scheherazade. How many nights did I get a call from Scheherazade saying, "Mommy, you're supposed to help cancer patients. You're not helping Andrew. This boy has been in and out of my house since he's a kid." How helpless did I feel in front of his mother, her only son, dying now. How badly we are failing our patients. It's not just Andrew. Look at the age-adjusted mortality. I can't make this up. Yes, there is a 1% decline, but that is mainly from anti-smoking and anti-obesity campaigns. I came to this country as a 24-year-old fresh medical graduate, started to treat acute myeloid leukemia in 1977 with 2 drugs we popularly call 7 and 3. 7 days of Aracy, 3 days of donomycin. Today, in 2023, I'm using the same exact 2 drugs, 7 and 3. It is a complete embarrassment. What are the results? In 1977, 5-year survival for AML was 26%. Today, in 2023, it is 28.5%. Glioblastoma, we are not doing well. We are not doing well with most of them. And this is why a cry of lamentation from me is maybe we are doing something wrong. Stop chasing after the last cancer cell and maybe try to find the first cancer cell. Look for the initiation. Well, the problem is, how do we find the first cell? Because by the time cancer is diagnosed, there are hundreds of millions of cells already. Well, one possibility is that let's see if we can produce stress in the lab and what happens to the cell. So we used multiple ways of producing the stress, and we observed a very strange thing, appearance of giant cells, wild-type cells growing happily. Once we stress them, giant cells appear. And we caught them on camera showing polyploidy, and sometimes up to 32N DNA. What are these cells? We followed one of these cells. Nothing happens for 3 days. At 73 hours, it suddenly starts giving birth to babies. It's like a somatic cell pregnancy. And so we have caught this over and over on time lapse. These giant cells appear. They start giving birth to 2N DNA cell, one giant cell giving birth to so many. After a few weeks, all you see are the small cells. That is the cancer you diagnose. But we have missed the entire initiation story of the first cell by looking at only fully established cancers. Can we isolate these cells by size? So in 2015, I set up a filtration device in my lab at Columbia University, and literally using a coffee filter technology, because these giant cells have been identified in primary tumors, but they're very rare in the primary tumor. Now that we are doing liquid biopsies, we can catch them from the blood because we enrich for them. And so when I looked at patients, just 10 cc's of blood passing through a filter we started to find these giant cells. Compare it to the size of a leukemia blast under it. That's a blast because it has a nucleolus. You see the giant cell is pregnant with like 20, 30 cells in it. And now we have published this data on hundreds and hundreds of patients with MDS and AML. I'm not talking about tissue culture cell lines. I'm not talking about mice. These are cells that have been isolated from human leukemias, patients. Every time you see these bizarre giant cells with multiple small cells. In solid tumors, compare the size of the giant cell to the white blood cell. In fact, in 5,000 tumors, every single one was positive. Just looking at 7.5 ml of blood. More interesting was, once you give your standard of care treatment for cancer, and post-therapy, you take blood from cancer patients and look for giant cells. If you don't find any, survival is a straight line. Even if you find a single one, there is a relapse. And so we know these giant cells are important. My hypothesis is that under stress, two cells which are stressed fuse together, because fusion is a very normal response to stress. You double the genome instantly. You don't need to go through mutations or anything. And then the nucleus keeps dividing, the cell doesn't divide. With time, depolyploidization occurs, and that's where you have the actual cancer. We come in with treatment, we only get rid of the cancer. The giant cell survives. And that is what, in time, is going to cause recurrence. So can we imagine a two-step approach in which we first give standard of care to kill the cancer as best as we can right now, and then come in with treatment and elimination of the giant cell? Well, what about future patients? Can we prevent by taking out the giant cell early? With that in mind, I created the oncology think tank 5 years ago. Participants were from the major institutions in this country and some of our industry partners. And we published a paper, an opinion paper in Scientific American. Conclusion of the entire oncology think tank was, we have to find cancer before stage 1, because even stage 1 requires slash, poison, and burn. These are horrible, horrible treatments that we should not be giving to anybody. And so the only way is to find it even earlier. And how do we find that? Well, we proposed that identify a group of individuals who are at high risk of developing cancer. Do you know that 1 in 5 new cancers appear in a cancer survivor? My own husband, Harvey Preisler, who got his first cancer at 34 years of age, survives it. At 57, in the prime of his life, he's taken by a leukemia that was completely unrelated to his first cancer, and he dies. 1 in 5 is a large number. 20% cancers are diagnosed in a cancer survivor. Just do the math. If there's 1.9 million cases, this year 400,000 plus will appear in a cancer survivor. We can collect. These cancer survivors are coming to the centers all the time for follow-up. We can take non-invasive samples from them, try to see if we can catch the first cell early, and what about studying the rest of the samples for multi-omics technology, all the things that you're hearing about today? Well, with these ideas, I went to the acting director of the NCI, Dr. Doug Louie, who is here, and he was extremely supportive. He gave us a lot of his time, and because of his encouragement, I was able to do a pilot study at Columbia University of the first 500 cancer survivors, and we are finding amazing results with it. And so my idea was, well, we can now extend it to the rest of the institutions who are poised to start collecting samples. Within 2 years, we'll have enough samples and 50,000 cancer survivors, a few thousand will have developed a second cancer. We have their samples from before and after. I really urge all of you, you are the leaders in oncology today. I stand in front of you as a failed oncologist who's very embarrassed to see 30 to 40 cancer patients every week and not having any better news to give. Please, let's try to rethink what we are doing and try to study patients and human samples. I will not show you this last thing because I've run out of time, but thank you.